on a black background with white letters. The title reads Avere Cura, Artist Talk, February 2023. The text is Verdana and is left justified.
Okay, hello and good evening, everyone. My name's Sean. I'm the Director of Programming at Tangled Art and Disability. And I want to welcome everyone here to the Avere Cura Artist Panel. Before we start, I'm just going to describe myself. I'm an East Asian Chinese person. I'm male presenting. I use he and they pronouns. And I'm also somebody who's physically disabled. My back curves, my shoulders are uneven. And if we were meeting in person, you'd probably notice I'm quite short of stature. Today I have on my trusty steampunk glasses. They're like these brown circle lenses with these gold rims that float on the frames. I'm in a black like sweater neck, and I have this kind of longish dark hair. I haven't cut it since the start of the pandemic, so you can imagine how long it's gotten. And I'm also wearing a blue surgical mask. So I want to, as we begin, I want to start by recognizing that though we're joining this event digitally, this digital space is one still bound by the colonial politics and systems that make up our physical world. I want to acknowledge that I'm on land that's been the home of Indigenous peoples and nations long before colonial documentation of time, specifically the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. People who continue to live and work here in what is currently known as Toronto or Tekaronto. This place is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, as well as the meeting ground for the urban Indigenous Tekaronto community. Here we're governed under Treaty 13 between the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Canadian government, though we're mindful of broken covenants and strive to make this right with the land and with each other. In a time where Indigenous peoples across Canada have faced the brunt of COVID-19 due to systemic problems, including a lack of clean water on many reserves, limited access to internet, healthcare, and medical personnel, and overcrowded housing, we all have a responsibility to remain vigilant of these issues and understanding the context in which we make a land acknowledgement in 2023. And many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, or newcomers in this generation and generations past. But we also acknowledge those of us who have come here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. And so we honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. As arts workers, we're participating in an arts and culture sector that's actively erased, dehumanized, and displaced Indigenous peoples and stories in Turtle Island. And so part of working towards the complex concept of decolonization means being accountable to the systematic relationship that we all have with one another in the arts. And in understanding what power curating stories of our culture and its heritage has. Now, this is the approach that we hope to take with access as well, ensuring the work of accessibility and decolonization really remain in deep intertwined relation. We hope everyone participating tonight recognizes those interconnected ways that colonization has impacted disability and recognize that access is an act of resistance. And in the spirit of access, I'd just like to go through some of the access protocols we have today. So for today, we have ASL interpretation, thanks to Jessica and Marianne. For folks who are attending this event, we will be spotlighting the ASL interpreters. But if you go into gallery view, you can also pin the speakers however you'd like. Pinning just helps ensure that the folks you're interested in looking at are always visible. We also have live captioning, thanks to Marina. So we will have time for questions following our presentations today. So feel free to ask any Q&As you have in the Q&A option here, or feel free to send them to us in the chat. Once we get to the Q&A, we will allow folks to, ask questions however they'd like. And let's see. So if, in terms of any protocols for speakers, please try to say your name before speaking and speak at a conversational pace for our ASL interpreter. We do have some keyboard command shortcuts if you'd like to know them. You can use Alt-A to mute and unmute, Alt-B to turn on and off your video. And if anyone's calling in, you can use *6 to mute and unmute and *8 to raise your hand. And so at this point, I am going to introduce today's moderator, Max Ferguson, and turn it over to him. So Max Ferguson, he and they, is an interdisciplinary artist, curator, and scholar. Currently, Max is completing his PhD in Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at York University. His research focuses on anti-colonial approaches to queerness and disability, neoliberalism, and necropolitics. A practicing artist since 1996, Max received their BFA from the University of Regina in 2001 and graduated with an MFA in disciplinary studies in 2017. His artistic explorations involve atypical and trans queer sexualities, activism, the body, surrealism, anti-colonial approaches to art making, and psychoanalysis. Max works with a variety of media, including digital-based works and ready-made, paint stick, graphite, and digital collage. His practice blends high and low art approaches, art and academic theory, pop culture, and other influences. And currently, his work revolves around hybridized notions of photography, sculpture, installation, and performance, and involves psychoanalysis, the body, activism, queer and trans theory, madness, and neurodivergent ways of being. I should also mention that Max was our 2021 curator in residence. And it is such an honor to have you here with us and for you to have made this connection for us to all these incredible artists. So without further ado, welcome, Max.
Thank you, Sean. Just a quick visual description in the spirit of access. I am a masculine presenting person. I am wearing gold rimmed glasses. My hair is blonde. I have a beard and a mustache. And behind me is a very blank wall. And beside me is a dog that you can occasionally hear grunting for commentary. Hopefully it won't be too loud while we're talking. So I want to introduce all the artists. I'm going to go through them sort of very linearly, I guess. I'll start by reading B. Garneau's, I guess, description of their work and themselves. And I'll go through each artist, and then we can go from there into the presentations. So B. Garneau, this is directly from their I guess their statement. They say, I'm B, a photographer. My role in this life is to be delighted with what is. I had trouble with that before. I could tell the universe was marvelous, but I couldn't enjoy it chemically. Eventually, I saw that my sadness wasn't my own. My anxieties were placed upon me and were not of me. In this moment, I witnessed something beautiful. I took out my phone and I took a picture. After that, those sensations became more frequent. I kept taking out my camera. I like evidence. Maybe you do too. Who knows? Maybe you'll see what I saw, and for a moment, be freed of the sufferings that aren't yours. So that's B. I will move on to Carla Sierra Suarez. And Carla Sierra Suarez is a Mexican artist and visual storyteller based in Toronto. Her work is autobiographical in nature and explores her identities as disabled, mentally ill, and neurodivergent. Carla's work is vulnerable and brings light to issues that have been often stigmatized. Her practice is a direct reflection of what normal means to people like herself, normal being in quotations. It speaks of our collective truth, our reality, and our lived experiences. Next, I'm going to mention Kit Trytten. I hope I said your last name correctly, Kit. Born in rural southwestern Ontario, Kit Trytten explores the intersections of gender, sexuality, disability, and the human body through contemporary mixed media installations. They have a fascination with textiles and found objects and how they can be incorporated into a new understanding of portraiture. Next is Olivia Brouwer. Olivia Brouwer is an interdisciplinary artist from Cambridge, Ontario. In 2016, she graduated from the Art and Art History Joint Program specializing in painting and printmaking at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and Sheridan College Institute of Technology. Since then, her work has been exhibited in a number of shows across Southern Ontario, including the Blackwood Gallery, the Art Gallery of Mississauga Center, and Idea Exchange. As a partially blind artist, Brouwer explores the idea of blindness and accessibility through her art. She translates the concept of blindness into a symbol, using it to examine ideas surrounding belief, meaning, clarity, and sight, both physical and spiritual. Her most recent work explores various encounters with art which activate human senses, enabling an inclusive experience for both the visually impaired and sighted audience. And Olivia will be having an upcoming show with us at Tangled this year. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. Next is Seeley Quest. Seeley Quest is a trans-disabled environmentalist working in literary and body-based composition, curation, and facilitation. Z presented in San Francisco Bay Area, 2001 to 14, with Sins Invalid, 2017 to 15. Here, play script Crooked is in at the intersection of disability and drama, and First Game Narrative debuted for National Accessibility Week 2020. C created an ecological assessment for Buddies in Bad Times 2021 Rhubarb Festival, inaugurated a 2021 Quebec Writers Federation Disabled Writers Workshop, and a Queer Disabled Joy Workshop for Montreal's Studio 303's 2021 Queer Performance Camp. In 2021, Z served on a committee hiring a director for the National Disability Theater of the US and led a workshop poetry, prose and dramatic writing from the body mind with Toronto's Workman Arts. Here, script modeling has had readings online with Real Wheels Theatre and the 2022 Revolver Festival. Published in Canadian Theatre Review and Briar Patch magazine. She's not on social media. And then there is a website here, which I will read out per letter. https://QUESTLETTERS dot substack.com. So that's http://questletters.substack.com. I don't know if we can put that in the chat, but someone might want to. There it is. Thank you. And then we're going to move on, last but certainly not least, to Susan Aydan Abbott. Susan Aydan Abbott is a multidisciplinary artist currently living and working in Winnipeg, Manitoba, holding lived experience with mental illness, homelessness, addiction, and abuse. She is a strong vocal advocate for social justice. Likewise, her art practice most often explores themes pertaining to rape culture and violence against women. Abbott has shown in solo group shows locally and nationally, as well as attended residencies in Hamilton, Ontario at Centre 3 and Feminist Art Collective in Toronto. Her work was spotlighted on Canada Council's website in 2018. So sorry, I had to read all of that off my phone, but there's a lot of information. So thank you for that. And thank you to all the artists. So moving forward, I guess, are we ready for presentations? I believe B is first. Ivy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Awesome. All right. Amy. Can you see me?
Can see you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Hi, my name is B. I'm a photographer. And I've just been really enjoying taking pictures of things. And like you heard, I started years ago when I found that I could actually just enjoy what I was seeing. Didn't have to go anywhere. Everything just came right up to me. And it was mostly trees and clouds and nature. But when you go for walks in cities, you see all sorts of things that we don't usually think of that. Buildings, cars. But the more I look, I see that the way that we build buildings, it's not so different from how we go about building their hives, like nests and all sorts of things. When I look at the ground and I see all the anthills, and I think, well, I mean, they certainly did that, didn't they? Work into it. When I see it next to our cement, and I think, well, all right, we put some work into that too. I see some similarities, constructed things, and then I like how they break down and then get put back together. There's the ants that are doing it are people. So some of those pictures that I have up in the gallery are things like that that corner where it is red on one side and then the paint is chipped off on the other. And I took a picture of that because I knew it wouldn't last. And within about a month or so, there are people there painting the whole thing again so that it was uniform. People are just like that, and I can tell. That, all right, it's nice, but it's not as nice as it could be. Not as nice as it should be. So we do something. So go out and take pictures, go for walks. Then they'll be at a friend's place, and they'll just have a wonderful mess at the table. We've just had a party. and there's, all sorts of mess around, and I'll take up my camera because I can tell we had a good time. We played a card game, and there's, food, and there's a cat in the background. Art. I think, yeah, that was Elizabeth. I also enjoy taking a picture of something instant. That when I hold it, there, it has been created. It exists. And it keep getting recreated every time I turn phone on to look at where the photo is. I see it again. Put it out into the internet or print it out, and it gets to have a bit longer of a lifetime. Sparks some joy for me, so maybe it does for someone else. Maybe you're at the same party and they're like, hey, I remember that. They print it out with someone else's camera. We all took pictures of it. Take it with us any other way. We couldn't all do stuff. I like the making something almost permanent, but knowing that it doesn't. It just gets to last a bit longer. But there's always going to be trees, just sort of like the ones I talked about in sunset, but the sunset tree combination is unique. I get to see it. It sort of allows me to remember it, even if I put my camera somewhere. About the moment of lining things up and thinking, what do I like about this? What am I trying to fit in? Usually a pattern. Often I don't even know. There's just something about that moment that just breaks my family. It's nice knowing that it's not just people that do it. A bunch of rabbits and dogs and bears and birds just enjoying some good views. So I realized that it wasn't even just taking pictures that I like, it's looking at things. Looking at things and seeing what nature's doing. And it's just having a ball. Sometimes you can just turn up a rock. Find all sorts of things that are just like, hold on a second, I was doing something interesting. How are you looking at me now? I feel like I'm catching the universe, as a surprise. So, hey, I wasn't supposed to break open that fruit right then and there. It was going to be a fruit for a little longer. So, also cool things inside. I want to get a microscope so I can take smaller pictures. It was easier for me to find a telescope and pictures of that, but just looking from a different perspective. I know that other people see things. Whenever I see photography or art from different cultures, it makes me want to take pictures in a new way. And I was taking pictures in a very Western way of just putting some sort of object in the center, lining things up. And then I see some Chinese art, and they just a little drawing off into the corner. They can then suggest the blank of the page. What else is going on? I like that, seeing a little bit of grasses and knowing, oh, now this is a pond. I can do that sometimes with my photos. Bit of grass over here taking a look. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, sometimes I've said a bit more. I've been playing with different structures of it's fun. But I'm never going to get bored of it because there's always more things to look at. Good at taking pictures of myself. Much other things. All I have to say right now.
Thanks so much, Pete. Thank you. It was really, really wonderful to hear you talking about your process. It's playful and joyful, and it's the main reason that that your work really stands out, I feel. So thank you again. Okay, let's move on to Carla. Carla, are you ready to go?
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me / see me?
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, cool. I've been having some
Internet issues
with my internet. Yeah. Hey, so hello everyone. I'm Carla, and I will be talking a little bit about my own practice and what I believe my purpose as an artist is. I would just like to quickly note that I'm not speaking as clearly or loud as usual as I'm recovering from surgery, and it has affected my speech a little bit. So there are live captions you can enable on Zoom, as well as live ASL interpretation. So just a quick self-description. I'm a Mexican woman wearing a pink Muslim headscarf with a black undercap. I have brown eyes and I am wearing eyeliner. My background is blurred, and it's just a blurred white background of my apartment wall with some darker objects in the back. So as Max said earlier, I'm a multidisciplinary artist that focuses on issues of identity and belonging. I like to think of myself as a visual storyteller, as I feel my works are autobiographical in nature. For this show, I focused on my identities as neurodivergent, mentally ill, and disabled. I have also made works for other shows exploring my other identities, such as Mexican and Muslim. I'd like to give a little background on how I began making art. I was always interested in art since a young age, but I think the turning point was my teenage years, when art really became a necessity to cope and survive during struggling times. Art became my lifeboat, and I used it for healing and understanding my experiences, something I still do to this day. And in turn, I hope that helps others like myself understand themselves as well. Even to this day, what I'm currently working on artistically is a direct reflection of what I'm working through or things that I'm struggling with at the moment due to my identities. My artworks for the show, titled Daily Rituals, mean a lot of things to me, but I think the main thing is that it was a way for me to work through and come to terms with something many of us as disabled, mentally ill, and neurodivergent people experience, which is being medicated and having all of these medical objects be a part of our daily life, especially when it's not seen as quote unquote normal. Ever since I began my healing journey, there have been a lot of feelings of otherness, of feeling different, feeling broken, looking at all the things I needed to take simply to exist in a world that was not made for people like me, for people like us. Now I'd like to read my artist statement for this show just to give some context. Daily Rituals is a sculpture replica series of everyday objects we as disabled, mentally ill, chronically ill, mad, and neurodivergent people encounter in our daily lives. A pill pack, a hot water heating pad, a weekly pill container, an antipsychotic medication bottle, and a roll of bandage. Often beautiful objects make it into art spaces, galleries, and museums. Our stories are rarely told and heard. Through sharing our voices and our stories, we elevate these mundane objects, and they become a symbol of our experiences, our struggles, our ups and downs. Life stories become embedded in these objects, and they themselves become the beautiful artworks brought into art spaces. The variety of casting materials such as wax, bronze, plaster, and resin work as a metaphor to show how our collective experiences are also unique to each one of us as well. We are more than a statistical number. We are human. Our stories must be told. And that's what my whole practice is about, telling my story, our story, that is rarely seen in public settings. I'd like to share my screen now and show a few pictures of the sculptures that are part of Daily Rituals. Sorry, I'm just trying to flip to the next slide. I'm gonna unshare and share again. Sorry about that. Okay. See if it works now. Okay. So I'm gonna be doing some visual description of what the image is in front, as well as talking a little bit about what's in there. So the first slide here is a wide shot of my collection of the artworks in the exhibit. On the far left, there is my printed artist statement on a white wall with a shelf underneath with the first set of sculptures. This shelf is tactile and is encouraged to touch the works. In the middle, there is one long shelf with the remainder of the works. And to the right, there is a set of headphones hanging, as well as a TV playing my audio description, video of the process behind making the pieces. I like how the installation is dynamic and multimedia and offers participation and inclusion from anyone who visits, which is quite rare in art settings to be able to touch the work or see the process behind the work. So this is the second slide. This image is a close-up of the tactile shelf. So it's a white shelf with a black sticker of a hand silhouette, and the text reads, "Touch me." On this shelf, there's a red pill bottle cast in resin, which is an antipsychotic medication that I take. It's a mold of it, or I guess a cast of it. There's a couple of pill packs, a weekly pill container, and a bandage cast in pale blue plaster, as well as another bandage cast in dark brown wax. When you touch and interact with these pieces, you will find an array of texture on them. My favorite is the red one, as there is a very gritty, bubbly, kind of rough texture on it that is quite, at least to me, quite pleasing. So the third slide here is a close-up of the long shelf in the middle of the wall, where there are more pill packs, pill bottles, and bandages, but here they are cast in other materials, such as white plaster, red resin, yellow beeswax, brown wax, and marbled blue plaster. And finally, this last slide just shows two images of the bronze hot water bottle pad, which wasn't seen on the initial image as it's on a different side of the gallery. The left one is a close-up of the water bottle, and the right is a wider shot that includes the full stand that it is on. The bronze is a dark golden color with brown detailing that makes it look weathered and used. I have, a very strong connection with this hot water bottle that I casted. It's cast from something that I used quite often for pain, specifically hand pain that I get. And it was interesting to make it into such a permanent object, which is a bronze sculpture. I created all of these works I just showed by mold making and casting objects that I own and use on a daily basis as a disabled person. I'm just gonna stop sharing. So these medication bottles, pills, bandages, things we collect on a daily basis, these mundane objects become symbols of our perseverance and our will to keep going even if the circumstances aren't in our favor. We need to be heard and seen, and we are fed up with people speaking for us when no one but ourselves will ever know the intricacies of being disabled. It is so important to tell our stories, especially in places where we are underrepresented. We are destigmatizing through storytelling and showing people that we are unique human beings that deserve the same care and respect as our able-bodied counterparts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla. Your work is so appreciated. And thank you for sharing, the details of your process too, because I know a lot of us have enjoyed engaging with your work throughout this exhibition. So again, much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so it looks like Kit is next. Are you ready for us, Kit?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Kit. My pronouns are they, them. I want to apologize for my voice. I'm coming down with a cold, so I sound a little rough, but I'll try to speak clearly. A quick visual description. I am a Caucasian person. I have a round face, short blonde hair, and blue eyes. I wear thick, square glasses, and I have a burn scar on my left cheek under my eye that extends down past my nose. I am wearing a blue t-shirt, and in the background is some black shelving and a couple of posters on a cream wall, and also a window to my right, which is kind of glaring in the video, so I'm sorry about that as well. Thank you to everyone who turned up this afternoon to learn more about this exhibition, and thank you to Max and Tangled for making all of this possible. A short bit about me. I'm a queer, non-binary, disabled artist from Toronto, Ontario. I graduated from OCAD University in 2019 with my bachelor's in fine arts. Of course, we all know what happened in 2020. With the pandemic going on, my career was put on hold like a lot of other people's. So finally being able to dip my toe into the art world as an artist has been wonderful. When Max sent out the call for artists, I was really excited because I saw the opportunity to take the concept of curation as care and find healing through my work. Of course, I'm in college full-time right now, but I couldn't help myself. I already had a million ideas flying through my brain for this. Unfortunately, I came down with COVID in September, around the time that I started a more intense course of treatment for my endometriosis, and I haven't really recovered yet. It put me behind in my studies, and it put me behind in my work for Tangled. And thus, through a series of unfortunate events, Cicatrize was born. Cicatrize is the term for the body forming scar tissue. It's a process I am all too familiar with. In addition to my burn scar on my face, my endometriosis has been slowly covering my insides with scar tissue for the last decade. Scars can also be invisible, like the lingering trauma after events or coping mechanisms that build up over time to manage unbearable circumstances. I had a lot to process, and Avere Cura offered a unique opportunity to just exist in a space and heal. Sean and Heidi and all of the wonderful staff at Tangled really helped me out in that regard. They opened up the space for me to work and let me come in over the holidays. Those days were really special, and by the time I pinned the last butterfly on the gown I had created, I felt as though I had gone through a metamorphosis myself. I've always been inspired by wearable art, like the extreme and delightful designs on the haute couture runways of Paris, and had always wanted to make a series of ball gowns from found materials for a long time. I guess we can consider cicatrize the first of hopefully many, although it is not technically wearable since the mannequin was sewn into the gown. When I think of healing, my mind immediately goes to cool tones and soft materials, which is about all I had in my head when I brought my bag of materials to Tangled. I settled on chiffon, a lightweight polyester material in shades of blue and green, colors that are associated with healing and tranquility. Chiffon gathers along a thread beautifully, creating these tiny little folds that add elegant fullness to the material. So I pinned a test panel of gathered chiffon to the mannequin. I fell in love with the result instantly and subsequently spent the rest of my time running every gathering stitch by hand. It took nearly 40 hours to complete, and those hours were very therapeutic. I could be in this beautiful space, alone in my own reality, and just accept it. That's how I felt by the end of this, just an overwhelming sense of acceptance. I fitted the gown to a male mannequin torso with a hoop skirt to add volume. The male torso is kind of a nod to how I see myself, androgynous while expressing myself more femininely. It seemed fitting that my healing should take place on an expression of myself. The origami butterflies that I added to the gown are kind of like my signature as an artist. I learned origami as a child, and paper folding became one of many coping mechanisms to deal with stress or anxiety. These particular butterflies were folded from a daily affirmations calendar that was gifted to me by my mother. I was going through a lot at the time, and being able to just tear off the paper and read the affirmation and decompress by folding a little butterfly was life-saving. The butterfly often symbolizes growth and change, as well as the fragility of life. And to me, there was nothing more fitting to include in the work. I clustered the butterflies on the gown in areas of pain and healing and let them flow organically from the midsection of the gown up onto the neck of the mannequin, as if in a kind of release. That is how it felt, finally finishing the work, as though I had released a lot of pain and trauma and let it fly away. I hope to continue to work along this line of artistic process, finding healing in my own work and sharing with others. I intend to continue to make wearable art and soft sculptures, as I believe textiles as a medium has a lot of untapped potential and works well with the organic nature of my practice. In the future, I hope to pursue my master's of fine art and continue making with the goal of healing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. I loved hearing about your process because I was away. So it means a lot that I can hear firsthand what you experienced. Thanks. I guess, Olivia, you're next. So without further ado, there you go.
Can everybody hear and see me? Good. All right. I'll start with a self-description. I'm Caucasian female. I have a round face with blue-green eyes, blonde curly hair tied up in a bun, and I'm wearing a light green oversized shirt that kind of looks like something my dad would wear. I'd like to just talk about a little bit about my background. I am visually impaired in my right eye since I was about 3 years old. I had the chicken pox, but it led to a rare virus that caused me to be partially blind. I'm able to see my peripheral vision a little bit, but I can't really see much out of it, but my left eye is completely fine. So in my university stage, I kind of was trying to think of what I wanted to say from myself in my art. And I really loved painting. I loved the tactile material, did some printmaking as well, but really gravitated towards multimedia painting. And I use that medium as a way to express myself and my blindness. I wanted to be more comfortable talking about it as well. So kind of forced myself to make work about kind of blurriness and abstraction, trying to interpret it. And that was more in my third year, my fourth year as well. And beginning of the pandemic, I started to think about advocating for blind folks and visual art. They can't, it's very hard to understand visual art. And I started to think about tactility and bringing in other senses as well, not just relying on vision. So at the start of the pandemic, it was a bad time to make tactile work because, you can't touch anything. So, but it gave me a lot of time to just process what I wanted to start making. It became stronger over time, and it kind of led to the work that I have in the gallery now. I'm still working to improve and refine it more, but I started working with audible recording, kind of incorporating nature sounds into the physical tactile materiality of the artwork. You can see, I think Heidi's got a shot of the artwork in the space right now. So it's a bunch of different abstract interpretations of nature. And I just wanted to play with texture and materiality. And these are different kind of samples. It's called out-of-body sample map. And it's kind of just this preliminary idea of something that could be extended into a bigger series. But they're just like little ideas with audio clips of nature, just kind of walking around in the woods, or rain pattering on my car, or fire crackling. When you touch the piece, it will play those sounds. And I was interested in like how specific materials and surfaces kind of interact with those sounds. So it's kind of like making my own soundscape, my own environment of these abstract ideas. And I kind of see it as a way that is accessible for sighted and non-sighted viewers, just because it's abstract. So it's the interpretation contrasting between sighted and non-sighted viewers will probably be different, but that's the beauty of it, of the abstract interpretation of it. So I think I don't take care of myself a lot while I make work. I'm very addicted to production and productivity. So I think being invited into this opportunity gave me that chance to just slow down and not necessarily make something that's grand or completely finished, which was really beautiful. And I thank the gallery for that. It just made me feel less pressure to do that. And also just the subject of the artwork itself, referencing nature, is very calming and relaxing kind of care for myself as well. And I hope for other people to be reminded of those surroundings that give you that sense of relaxation and care for yourself. And yeah, also care for as advocating for marginalized communities such as blind folks. I really wanted that to be a strong part of my work. So I hope that it's accessible for people who are visually impaired, and they're able to experience visual artwork in different ways, such as using other senses. So I'd like to show my slide if the gallery can, yes, putting it up. So this is kind of the idea I had before showing the work I have at the gallery now. I was involved in a residency about a year ago, and I started playing with these materials. So the image is two square panels with acrylic paint on them, and they're also just like kind of abstract, like swished around paint applied onto the panel. And around the panels are these fabric strips, wood pieces, petal-like fabric, and frosted mylar, which is like a frosted plastic. You can kind of see through it, but not clearly. Those materials are also kind of in these oval shapes. And then those are all attached on these metal wires, which are conductive, and alligator clips are attached to that, which is also connected to a touchboard. This touchboard is like a little computer with the sound files on it. So when you touch the conductive material, it will play the sounds that are recorded onto it. The touchboard is also connected to a Arduino board, which is, I'm able to code specific proximity sensors or volume, and it's also connected to a speaker. So it's kind of complicated looking, but that was kind of my rough first idea of what I envisioned, and kind of on a larger scale as well. So the artwork in the gallery is kind of another little taste of what I was planning on doing. It's kind of just on a smaller scale. So we can go back to the gallery shot, I guess. Yeah, so yeah, I wanted to create this immersive experience for, yeah, on a larger scale. Eventually I'd like to have something that's very immersive, that you could just, everywhere you go, you could walk into something and you're able to touch it. And I'd eventually like to work up to navigation in the gallery, maybe with stuff on the floor to tell you where you are, or Bluetooth that's connected to your phone that tells you, okay, go right to where you are, and you'll hit an artwork or something. So I'm still trying to figure out how to expand and make it more refined into something that is like completely accessible, and blind folks will know exactly where they are. On the bottom of the wall is these little blocks, white blocks, for cane users to show you where exactly the artwork is right above it. And yeah, you can see on the image there that there's the touchboard at the bottom. It's connected to a Bluetooth device, which is also responding to the Bluetooth headphones on a plinth. And there's copper tape on the wall, which is conductive. And when you're touching the artwork or the tape, it will play these sounds. And then I'll try and describe all the artworks, but there's a lot going on. There's just a lot of felt materials. There's clay, there's wood sheet pieces. there's kind of like this rough, pebbly medium. The next one here is like a mobile that's hanging from a wooden rod, and there's wood pieces, felt, Duralar, frosted Duralar film, and fabric, all kind of in this kind of cluster, and it's all hanging like petals or leaves. And then the next one is this kind of black painted panel. Yeah, it's kind of, the description's more in the sound. And then the next one is these Duralar sheets that are glued on to with paint facing toward you. So when you move back and forth, it kind of makes this interesting shape and sound as well when you touch it. And then the next one is a smaller black painted square with long Duralar sheets hanging from a small pole that's connected to the panel. So that's all of that series. But yeah, I'd like to continue to make it larger. This was just a great experience that Tangled offered to, yeah, just to participate in kind of just taking care of myself and making sure that I'm taking care of the artwork as well. And I'd eventually like to maybe try the sense of smell as well. Still kind of working on it, but it's a very scientific process, so might not get to that sense, but really trying to figure out what I want to say and how accessible I can make it. And like Max said, I'm having a show later on this year, and it'll be a solo show, so it'll be all most of my work, and yeah, all accessible and bringing in the perspective of blind people as well. So that'll be fun. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, and yeah, thank you to the gallery for having me.
Thanks, Olivia. It's been really fun watching people engage with your piece, and also just, working through all of these technical things and listening to you describe it, really get a sense of the work that way as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Seeley, you are next, and looking forward to hearing a bit more about your work as well.
Hi, thanks. Ooh, well, I'm glad to join with everybody here. So I'm Seeley Quest. I use the pronouns she and here. I'm joining today from Kajiptuk, also known as Halifax, in territory Mi'kma'ki, the Mi'kmaq people. So I'm also just putting that in the chat now. To briefly visually describe, I'm a white person, transgender. I have short hair, some facial hair currently, and a black shirt with some basic wood doors and white wall behind me. Well, my piece, I'm hoping that there could be for the people attending today who maybe haven't had a chance to encounter the exhibit directly before, there could be a little bit of visual presenting of what the installation is. It's basically, and I'll just describe anyway. So I put together a few components, and I would say a primary one is that it is kind of an audio oriented project. I ended up creating a recording narrating, I would say kind of a reflective poetic text to invite audience into, and had the recording is available in okay, cool. The gallery cameras giving a little intro to the space here. There's kind of a more sound insulated little room build out to the side of the gallery. That audio text has been installed within. There's also a massage table as part of it, and ASL that was provided for a non-hearing based entry to the work as well, and some explicit inviting of people who would visit the show in person to potentially partake of the massage table that's there, and for people who are visiting remotely to think about how you might engage with some massage type practices within your own space, even if not having the same access to a table. So yeah, let's see. I called it embodied vulnerability and entry, and also including a couple tracks of music as well, kind of at the introductory part and the close, and in the middle actually, as a little bit more of a kind of ambient accompanying sound as I was speaking. And I feel like some, I don't know, major themes, I guess, coming up included ideas of what to disclose and how to deal with the subject of pain. Also the subject of just more broadly being vulnerable, and how to be with that respectfully and in a way that honors such a range of disabled people's experiences. I would say, well, I mean, even in this moment right now, and this is something that I, included pretty self-consciously choosing to include in the text I ended up composing. Just kind of navigating the process of wanting to be creating and sharing art while also living with I would say maybe higher than average amount of anxiety and having some significant health concern flares. My particular feeling of health at the moment is different. It's in a different place than it was when I was working on creating this work a bit earlier in the winter, but it's not in an easy place, I will say, right now, honestly. So that's something that I would say is really imbued in the work, but along with that is I would say some kind of intention around I guess I would say maybe a subtlety and a deciding to not give as much attention toward difficult aspects of experience, and to instead do some amount of redirecting attention toward how we might partake of things that bring relief and ease, and connect to this idea of care. And that being possible both in just giving ourselves individually opportunities to be self-caring, and also to introduce the idea of really how, I would say, like a level of pleasure that there can be, but also just kind of, so next to the pleasure, there's also just sort of the sheer level of a feeling of meaningfulness that's valuable when getting to witness other people, witness some peers. And particularly, I've kind of oriented this toward disabled community audience. So when disabled community peers, neighbors, friends, family, etc., can be, with enough freedom to connect to a space of a bit more relaxation and a bit of room to be vulnerable, and to have that kind of public at some level and witnessed respectfully, how that can, to just be attentive to the feeling of how that can be supportive, both for the person who's taking that opportunity to be vulnerable in the receiving and the being witnessed, and also how that connects to a dimension of there's this shared vulnerability, and the shared meaningfulness for people who maybe get to witness or to offer more of some kind of, whether it's through physical contact or not, caring gesture. I did train some years ago. I did an intensive training to teach yoga, really quite introductory level of hatha yoga class in the integral yoga tradition. And something that was really important about this training was that it was designed for people in disability community, to get the training, and then to potentially be able to offer classes to other disabled people as well. There was a kind of a gap there that people noticed. Some disabled, like, aspiring yoga practitioners made an effort to request some particular training that would include attention to, like, maybe how to propose modifications with poses, asanas, and so forth. So anyway, where my own yoga practice has gone, it's taken some turns since then, but even at that point back in the day when I did this, I got feedback that my ability to lead kind of a yoga nidra, like a relaxing meditation, a guided meditation space, that I had some strong capacity with that. And so that was something that I hoped to include in some way in this piece. During the narrative I created, I kind of took it, in a direction toward inviting mindfulness in a way that I really hope to be accessible to a variety of disabled folks. And to, the sound, the bit of kind of ambient music that I included as part of the soundscape with that as well, hoping to contribute to that sort of relaxing effect, encouraging people to be in that sort of contemplative space. And something else I really wanted to include within it was people, let me see, not necessarily limiting the meditative focus to just like our relations to other humans, let's say. That often kind of will come up first in a lot of traditional meditations, but sometimes disabled people have fraught relationships with other humans. Sometimes that doesn't always feel like there's as much safety or sense of care there as we would wish. So it felt important for me to include also other points of focus that a variety of us could perhaps turn to and find some gratitude for instead. This can include animals and also just so-called non-living beings, other natural objects of the universe, as you will. So anyway, I had originally imagined that the piece would involve myself in a live performance, which is quite a bit of the artwork that I've done over time, but I was not able to I was not able to get together the logistics of myself performing an interaction involving massage and this kind of invitation to a performance of caring with another person. And so I eventually decided to shift it to more of a, let's say, self-guided type of experience, and to set it up so that, again, people who would be visiting the gallery on site could have the space to take in the narration and either kind of just be strictly with their own experience and decide how to interact with the massage table or not, or to do that with, other visitors at the gallery at the same time, that they might be open to sharing that kind, more vulnerable, personal kind of space with, or again, for people to be just invited to actively imagine through and come up with their own ways to interact with the piece as a virtual audience person. I think that's going to be my notes for now. And again, I'm really appreciative to be participating with everybody involved in this. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Seeley, for your thoughtfulness. I really appreciate it and really enjoyed your work. Again, last but certainly not least, Susan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi.
Hey.
I can't hear you guys. What am I doing wrong here? Okay. I don't know why. I'm Susan Aydan Abbott. I'm the old broad with kind of purple, today purpley hair and crazy shirt and burgundy velour jacket on in my it's kind of my greenhouse that I'm in right now. And I didn't pull the curtain far enough over to hide all the crap that's behind there. Okay, so I thought I was gonna share slides, but then I realized I'm totally kind of incompetent to, it's too stressful and I'm sweating from it. So I'm just going to talk about me.
Oh, sorry, Susan. We've
Yep.
got those images you sent to us if you want us to share them.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I realized that I was going way too far back and I should probably just be concentrating on this. So a little background. I am a mad artist. I have a lot of history with dealing with unresolved trauma. So at the same time as I started to get into art, I also started looking to kind of heal myself and got involved with Canadian mental health and was a speaker there for a while. And at the same time, my kids got me to go back to art school. And I just went briefly, but I found that art gives me a way to talk about, I'm not a speaker, obviously, talk about stuff that I have a hard time talking about other than visually. So it really the first time that I do the stuff that I'm doing now is it's all self-portraits and it's all I'm an expert at my experiences. And I try in my practice to each work that I'm doing is a certain time in my life when I've disassociated. So I look at that and put myself in it. And it's a way for me to connect to myself. But I think also because a lot of the stuff that I do, I should come with a trigger warning. All the stuff that I do is kind of socially tabooed and I don't think people talk enough about, such as, you know, rape and suicide and shock therapy, different treatments and stuff. So it's all dark subject matter, but I think there's hope there. And I think by using myself and my experience, I can open that up so other people can hopefully connect. And at the same time, I connect to myself. So the work that I did for this show, I'm humbled and honored to be even a part of this. I started looking at my own history and truly with my mother and my relationship with my mother and our kind of broken relationship. And I've had a lot of inherited trauma. I was born into shame. My mom had a lot of shame and trauma that she never, sadly, never dealt with. But I think I was a mirror to her shame and unknowingly repeated patterns that I repeated. Maybe we're so much alike, I'm not really sure, but there was certainly a dynamic of love and hate, and which is hard, but it's important for me to, I've come to the point in my life where I have compassion for that and understanding. So this is my way of coming back to that. And my work is, I'm truly, I don't know if I'm an artist, I'm more of a storyteller. And this work is about my experience when I was 18. I was living on the streets and I came home and I was pregnant and I hid my pregnancy and my water broke. And my mom had a very hard time with it. And it was awful because it was toxic and it was humiliating, and she made me go to the hospital in a garbage bag. And it was, I didn't understand it, and I raged because there's no communication. It was stuff, you know, unwed pregnancy, especially now I understand my mom's time. I was like, I found out after that I totally mirrored her experience at the same age. Our children are born 25 years apart, a day apart. So she projected her rage and I projected it back. So this is just my interpretation of that. So, and the shame, I feel like my life, and to honor my mother, my mother lived in shame and never could pull back the mask. So the photograph is called Shame, and she hides away, masking everything. And it's a mask of my face with my eyes behind it and with long hair, but it's hiding behind the perfect smile or like the outside, whereas the inside was, to me, I wish I had known much more about. So, and the marionette is a representation of, it's my hands holding my mom. My mom's marionette, and I dressed her in a part of her pink prom dress because we were both 18, a hospital gown, and then the garbage bag is kind of like the crinolines underneath it. And I became her and realized that she was me. So this is kind of, that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan, for being so brave and for your really beautiful, amazing, and powerful work. I'm really glad you're part of it. Really, really glad. Yeah. Okay, well, that is everyone. I guess we're going to move into questions. I think, Sean, do you want me to just jump right into questions, or did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for what you shared. I think what we'll do now is we'll just bring everyone from the into the spotlight. And Max, you can go ahead. Okay. I've got 3 questions on the boil today. I don't know if we're going to get to them all. But I will just ask, I'll ask them in order, I guess, and we'll see how far we get. But I'm wondering if your participation, and this can be for anybody in this exhibition, has affected how you see your art practice now, based on, of course, the theme of care. So does anyone want to draw from that at all? I guess, has your art practice?
Go.
Okay, sure, Carla. Thank you.
Sorry, I raised my hand, but I don't think I
didn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, well, first of all, like just being in this show, I feel like opened my eyes to the fact that work like this can be shown in galleries, and many times I felt like my work was too niche and, you know, was something that maybe I would just do for myself, but I'm glad that people respond to it. And I guess like in terms of care, I've realized that it is possible to have, you know, accessible practices and practices that care for the artist and still, you know, come out with a show that is well-rounded. And, you know, I feel like a lot of times galleries scare you with harsh deadlines and, you know, intense working conditions and, you know, not really accessible practices. And you think, oh, you know, this is what is needed to create a show. And when you see that, you know, that's not actually true, there's many other ways to do it that are inclusive and that take in mind like the artist in the center of it.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, really, really glad that you all did this, because it really, I think, sets a really good standard. I think for all of us and for anyone that, you know, is now familiar with the gallery, that, you know, it is possible. And I hope that other galleries see this and, you know, implement it into their practice.
I can only hope, you know, that it's like a ripple and that it spreads, because I think it's just really, really important. I guess a follow-up question to the one that I just asked, does anyone else have any other comments based on what Carla said?
I guess just going off of what she said, the fact that you gave us permission to have grace for ourselves was it really helped a lot. Just the fact that a gallery, an institution, is allowing us to just take care of ourselves first before the artwork. That was like, I've never heard of that before. And I really hope that other galleries kind of, oh, that's a good idea. You know, like, I really hope that that changes in the future.
Me too. We need to care for the artist as well as the work. And I think, you know, like I said, you know, the root of curation is care. And it's a profound but very simple concept. So I hope that people take from that and get something out of it. I guess another question I have is, has the participation in this exhibition made you more aware of your needs, access-wise or otherwise, as an artist or just as a person even? I guess that's a question, you know, have you become more aware of your needs instead of, you know, just making work and maybe not articulating them as we're so often taught to do?
I think it's pretty easy to burn out from like what I just said about not taking care of yourself. I think for me, I need to be more intentional and realistic about how much I can actually do. And it depends on how I'm feeling on the day, but I need to just, grace is a word that's coming up a lot. I just need to give myself grace, and just, yeah, be okay with it not being perfect, or just need to be in that mindset.
Yeah, I'm so glad that the gallery can be a holding space for some of these ideas rather than just something that displays work, and, you know, like moving it into a space of holding space for folks. Really, really important to me as a curator, but also just as a human being and an artist too. So I'm glad I was able to share that with you all. Any other comments before I move on to the next question? Oh.
This is Seeley.
Hi, Seeley.
Did it help me recognize? Yes, to some extent. I mean, there's a, it is humbling. It's humbling to have the chance to recognize, just in the, you know, kind of recent period of trying to organize work and participation in this particular show, just through this period of time, to be recognizing like what more about what my level of needs are day by day. And yes, I understand that they've been changing over, you know, the years and the months as well, like everybody's. But yeah, I'm I'm at a point where I don't feel even, you know, great skill in verbalizing what my feelings around needs are, but just simply will say that I'm really super grateful for the support that Max in curating, and Sean, and everybody associated with Tangled has been bringing to support artists on this. So really, very much thanks.
Thanks, Seeley. That means a lot, actually. I can't believe it's going to be over. It's been wonderful mixing this up. There's a few folks that haven't spoken. Does anybody want to share their comments? They don't necessarily have to be with the questions, but if there's anything that's pressing or that you want to share, please feel free.
Something to say?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. There we go. Hey, so being encouraged to what our needs are and then communicate them was wonderful. I definitely took that forward into other parts of my life. So recently, I just got a job at a care home, and so I'm a continuing care.
Nice.
Great. And it turns out, oh, this is fantastic for me. But something has to come up to be a challenge. And I had a full body reaction to the mask, even though they gave me the hypoallergenic ones because it happened before. But like, oh, this is a problem. So I'm going to just have to say, hey, I'm having an allergic reaction. Let's do something about it. And just being able to have already that, I suppose, the confidence of knowing, hey, I have something going on. I deserve to be accommodated. When I talked to the guy, who was my boss, who's supposed to help, he said, yeah, we have a duty to accommodate. I go, great. So we'll work something out. So I'll wear a face shield or something that won't cause me to have an autoimmune reaction. But I didn't have to freak out as much as I would have before because it's like, hold on a second. Be accommodated. And I think it's because I worked.
Oh, so great. So great. I'm glad. That is awesome. Yay. Thank you, Bea. Carla, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I guess, like, definitely I'm more aware of my access needs, not just through, I guess, working in the show, but also getting to meet everyone at Tangled and getting to see how everyone working at Tangled gets their access needs met and how that's possible in a workplace environment. And then also that something that made a big impact, I think that's going to affect a lot of my practice is learning about access needs for others when it comes to making artwork. Because especially when I make artwork about being disabled, I want to make sure I can reach those disabled audiences. So I was able to learn a lot from like the size of the font of the artist statement to, the shelf placement and, the visual component that I did so that, people could interact with it in an auditory way. And even Olivia's incorporation of the like the wooden blocks to mark the boundaries, and that was like really eye-opening for me. So I'm just really grateful of that part too, of learning how to, I guess, make art that accommodates other people's access needs.
So important too, right? Access, as we say around here, is love. It's a way of honoring people, and I think that's one of the perks about showing at Tangled and being part of things. I know for me, it's been the same. I've learned so much as a curator, as an artist, just as someone participating in the community, because you kind of inherit a community when you work at Tangled. So thanks. Any other reflections? Susan, go ahead.
I just want to, I'm aware of it. I'm a creature of mood. So I just appreciate people responding to my rapid emails and editing and re-email and my nonsense. So that was great.
Oh yeah, no, anytime. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what yeah. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Are there any final thoughts?
I just want to say again, like, it was a really wonderful experience working with Tangled because I felt like it was okay for me to like not be 100% on the ball all the time.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. Like everybody was really accommodating. It was like, yeah, it's fine. It's great. Don't worry about it. Which is something I'm not always used to. And also, I really enjoyed being able to have the unique experience of being alone in that gallery with all of your work. It was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. Everyone did such amazing creations. And I'm honored to have been able to share with you guys.
So nice. Yeah, it's been wonderful. I've just loved watching the responses to the work, love being in the room with all of it. It's kind of like everybody's standing in a spot, in a space. We're all holding space for each other, which is a wonderful thought. I guess, Sean, is there anything else that we should touch upon? I'm thinking.
No, this was great. So we're now like open for questions from the audience. And I actually had one that kind of came to me. So I'm not seeing any yet. So I was hoping I could just skip the line and ask my question. My question was, what was the process of creating work with access? Being in a gallery like Tangled, which does consider access. What was that like? For some folks who do incorporate access, was it different? Was it a different process? And for folks who maybe haven't incorporated access into their work before, what was that process like?
This is Seeley speaking. Not sure if people experience this, Sean. I found that the signal glitched out a bit, so wasn't able to fully hear all of your question, but I think it was to do with could we reflect on how it felt to be creating work kind of with access very distinctly as part of the process versus our experiences maybe not creating work where access has been a primary part of the structure, if I'm interpreting that right. I'll just say that I appreciate the getting kind of, I would say, more refined feedback and info about timing involved for people providing American Sign Language interpretation, like the time that would be entailed for them to create an interpretation of X amount of spoken text. That felt like some helpful access-oriented info in the design process that I didn't maybe have like the full, I hadn't been working with on those exact in a remote meeting to discuss positioning and placement for a massage table with my original imagining. Okay, I'll back this up. Since I had originally imagined a variation on my piece where live has to then like perform some kind of like therapeutic touch gestures with me in that scenario to enable more visual acts for audience people. It seemed important to position a table on more of a slant, like closer to a vertical kind of position than a horizontal one, and at this angle, so people who might be seated in the audience could see me while I was trying to still verbally deliver things to the audience, and be leaning against a table in that position. However, once the piece was adapting more, and there's the scenario of installing like just furniture in the kind of sound insulated room, it was really helpful to have the chance to be kind of testing out the embodied actual experience of how it would be to position the table at, like, how would that work leaning against the wall versus at different heights, parallel to the floor and stuff. And it was it's I wouldn't say it's new for me in artistic projects to be paying attention to access issues generally, but the chance to kind of work on some of the specific access details here definitely felt informative. That's my end of thought.
Thanks. Carla.
Hi. Yeah, I think for me it was it was like a breath of fresh air, because so often when I would go to galleries, or I actually have done work installing artworks in galleries, and I think so much of the conversation is always what looks good and what will look formal and presentable, whatever is the way that they frame it, but it's really not ever people-centered. It's really about looks. And I think when I went to the gallery and I had the opportunity to drop the works off physically, and just to have Sean and Heidi explain to me, the ways that we could make this work be centered around the viewer's interaction, being accessible, and making sure that everyone feels included. And I think that really goes hand in hand with my artwork, when so much of my artwork is about replacing those beautiful objects that are just for aesthetics, and kind of making it really about personal experience. And I feel like in their installation at Tangled, they're doing that. It's centered around accommodation and inclusivity. And I really thought that the gallery looks great, and it's not that difficult for other galleries to do that. And I just think it's something that for sure I will keep implementing wherever it is that I go.
That's really wonderful to hear. I think we need to keep considering these things and having these spaces where we can open up and talk about access and how important it is to include everyone as much as possible. Awesome. Thank you so much. It looks like we have a question from the audience. Janelle says, I would love to hear about how the experience was working with your group of peers, deaf and or disabled artists, and how these types of connections are important as artists. Does anyone want to respond to that? How your experience was working with other deaf and disabled artists, and how they're important to make these connections, how these connections enrich things. Susan, go ahead.
I just think it's I don't know. I find I've been in another mentorship, a couple of them with disabled artists, and there's just an automatic safety and trust there where you don't need to explain. I mean, you're just yourself and authentic without having to defend yourself, kind of. So to me, it means everything. I couldn't imagine the work I do is so vulnerable. It just adds a layer of softness and grace. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. I know even in my space, working as a curator in this space versus working as a curator in other spaces that don't consider these things. So, Olivia, go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't worked with visually impaired folks for this specific project. I know I tried to keep that in mind as I'm creating the piece, but for my past projects, I've actually done interviews with visually impaired folks, and I've documented them in Braille on canvas so that people can touch, and also when they touch it, it's also audible. So if they can't read the Braille, then they'll be able to hear it at least.
Yeah.
It's really important, I think, for my work, especially to get their actual stories heard, and because they're the minority, they're in the background. I don't know a lot of blind folks, but they need to be heard, and this is a great way of doing it, is to actually bring them into the artwork, that their stories are the artwork.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge it makes it really important, the subject matter, to like really care for those people by sharing that and raising awareness of what they need to be part of the community. So I feel like the work that I presented in Tangled isn't catering specifically for that, but it's still raising awareness of accessibility, other ways of making artwork accessible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, like, I know personally, like for me working in this space and being allowed to be vulnerable openly makes such a huge difference in the quality of the curation too, simply because like I can allow everybody to speak their truth. There's no, like, it's just so much more relaxed. And with that comes less stress for everyone, I think. So less stress, less mess, something like that. Does anyone have any other comments about that, or any other thoughts?
Yeah, I got a thing or two.
Go for it.
So one of my friends has all sorts of eye conditions. I think there's about 3, and he is labeled in the blind group as most visual, non-visual learner. And he loves taking pictures. And so on Facebook, we trade pictures now and again. And as I'm writing image descriptions for my pictures, I often think of him, because I know that he can see something. So he's going to bring it up to his face and zoom in. And so what will my description provide? It's just, well, here's enough hints so that your eyes know what you're looking at. Because your eyes are going to try and figure out what this is, even if they're going to give you different information from mine. And so when I'm writing image descriptions, I do think of my friends, but also the people that I can't know what you want to know from this, but I've been told the solution to how do we have blind people enjoying photography is just narrate it. So I've been having some fun, and taking a picture is a way of avoiding using words. That brings me back to words sometimes.
It's really good. I like, yeah, image description is really wonderful too. And it's an art form in itself. Thanks, Pete. Seeley, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just briefly say, as far as the experience of working with a group of peers, I really do love cross disability and deaf spectrum community mixed art spaces and opportunities to bring some of the breadth of our diverse types of arts expressions together. I've been lucky to have the chance experience this in different contexts before this show. I would say actually the majority of my artwork tends to connect to disability community in some way at this point. but it even for as long as I've personally been involved in arts community and disability community, there's always new things. There's always, newness of some other artists' unique expressions, and I love it. I find it super, super meaningful to get to connect with people's just range of perspectives and mediums and things that we're all working with. End of thought.
Absolutely. I agree. I think diversity and the breadth of things is really what sets some of this disability art related discussion apart from others. So thank you so much. Well, I think if there's no other questions, I'll pass it back to Sean and let him carry on from here, but really appreciate all of the amazing discussion this afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Max. It's been such an incredible pleasure. I really just want to thank all the artists here, and of course, Max, for you bringing everyone here into this space and together. It's been a privilege, and this was just so fantastic. I hope that we continue to stay in each other's orbits, and I just want to say as well that my hope is that this project doesn't end with the exhibition, that we continue to, stay in touch as artists, and maybe there are ways that we can continue to think about the care of each other even after an exhibition, right? There's always that dip, that hollowness after a show where you sort of disconnect, and I think that's something we want to think about together too. And so, did you want to say something like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think if there's any way we can carry this on, I would be more than willing to do what I can. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So thank you to everyone here. Thank you to Mary Ann and to Jessica and to Marina and of course to all the Tangled staff today. Thank you to all the artists, and unfortunately, unceremoniously, once I end this meeting, it just kicks everyone off. So I'm going to say thanks, and we're going to process this recording and send it out to the folks who weren't able to come today, and of course to the artists as well. And yeah, greatly appreciate everyone being here today. Our next exhibition, today was the final day for Avere Cura, and so our next exhibition, Cripping Masculinity, will open March 10th, and I encourage folks to also check out that show, whether remotely through our digital Zoom-led tours or through a robot, or feel free to stop by at 401 Richmond Street West, Suite 124. Nice. And yeah, thanks everyone. Take care, and
thanks
have a good night.
Have a really good night, everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Tangle Art Plus Disability logo. On a white background, to the left, there is a pink squiggly line. The word Tangle is in bold, sans serif pink text. Underneath, the words Art Plus Disability are in thinner, in black sans serif